Okay, we might get started. I'm trying to stem the flood of people coming in from the waiting room. My name is Janet Catterall, and I'm the Senior Project Officer at Open Access Australasia. And I'd like to welcome you all and say thank you for coming to the webinar today. In a second, I'll pass you over to the facilitator for our session today. But just wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording the session, which some of you may have heard when the button was pressed. We ask, could you please keep the microphones on mute unless you are asking a question at the end. And any questions that you may have, if you're welcome at the end to unmute and ask the questions yourself, but if you'd rather put them in the chat, you're very welcome to put them in the chat, and I shall collate them and pass them to Nathalie. Just like to do an acknowledgement of traditional owners. Open Access Australasia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and to Naiwi Mari Tagata Whenua of Aotearoa. I personally am on the land of the Gimoy Woolabura Yidinji in Gimoy or Cairns up in far north Queensland. And you're very welcome to share in the chat where you're calling in from. I'd like now to pass you to Jess Howie. So Jess is a new member of Open Access Australasia's Executive Committee. We're very, very happy to have her. She's also the Assistant Director, Open Research, Teaching and Learning at Te Pera Wananga o Waikato, the University of Waikato in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And she's done a heap of open access work for a long time. She was involved in the open research space for almost 10 years, involved with the State of Open Access work, which Aotearoa did over 5 years, which I've used a lot in my work for OAA. And she was involved in the formation of the Aotearoa Scholarly Community of Practice, and in the recent writing of the Open Research Position Statement at Waikato. And so with that, I will pass you over to Jess. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thanks, Janet. That's wonderful. Ko Jess Howie tōku ingoa, he kaimahi ki te whare pukapuka o te whare wānanga o Waikato. I'm coming to you from Hamilton, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it's my pleasure today to be able to introduce the speaker on this topic. So we're really thrilled to be hosting Nathalie Fargier, the Director for at the Centre for Direct Scientific Communication, who will be presenting on HAL, the multidisciplinary open archive of French research, and Episciences, a complete platform for the publication of open access diamond journals. HAL is a software and a multidisciplinary repository housing many different types of research output and a shared platform for institutional archives. Episciences is a comprehensive platform for editing and publishing scientific journals combined with an editorial support service. The platform offers a complete tool for managing, hosting, and distributing journals. So Nathalie is a leading figure in scientific communication and open access. She's directed influential initiatives such as Per Se, a major portal providing access to back files of French-speaking scientific journals, and is the director for the CCSD, where she oversees the HAL Open Archive platform and Episciences, an overlay journal platform supporting open access publishing. So her work focuses on promoting digital access to scientific heritage and advancing open science policies. Nathalie has received the CNRS Crystal Medal for her contributions to scientific communication and digitization. And she's also a member of the executive board for COAR, the Confederation of Open Access Repositories. So I'm really excited to be able to attend this talk today. I know we have an awful lot of people in the audience who are super passionate about repositories, about bibliodiversity, and particularly about how other countries have approached this sort of thing in a strategic and collective way. So I'm very excited to hear what Nathalie has to say. And with that, I will hand over to you, Nathalie.
Good afternoon. I'm very delighted to be with you today, and I'd like to thank Martin Borcher, who put me in contact with Janet, who organized this webinar. And I'm really happy to have the opportunity to talk and to exchange with you and to present HAL and Episciences. I'm going to share my presentation, and I'm going to begin my presentation. Is it okay for everybody? Yes, thanks so much. So my presentation will be divided into three main parts. I will begin with providing you an overview of the open science landscape in France to give you some background elements. Then I will focus on HAL and finally on Episciences. And for each of these platforms, I will highlight some key figures. I will try to describe the main current projects we are working on, and I will also share some upcoming challenges we are facing. And at the end of the presentation, I will be very happy to answer any question you may have. So let's start with a few words about research and higher education landscape in France. So in France, we have 72 universities and 247 what we call grandes écoles. It's kind of engineering school and elite schools. And those institutions both train students and conduct research. Their size and structure can vary. They can be multidisciplinary or focus on one discipline. But in the research landscape, research performing organizations are the very important actors. And currently there are 26 public research performing organization in France. The largest one is the CNRS, due to the number of its researcher, but also the scope of the research. CNRS really work on every field of research. And you can also find other research performing on an organization that focus on a very specific topic. For example, INRIA focus on IT issue, and for example, INSERM is related focus on medical research. An important point I would like to highlight is the fact that research laboratories are what we call mixed units. That means that they are jointly operated and funded by different university and research performing organization. And it's very common for one research laboratory to have multiple authoritative institutions. So this is very important for us because this organization has an impact on the way HAL as a repository works. And in France also we have different and several funding agencies, the main one being the ANR. And there are also one national evaluation body for both research laboratories and academic programs. In Europe, we consider that French occupies the second place after Germany regarding the number of researchers and PhD students. Now let's focus on the open science. The key structure in this landscape is the Open Science Committee. It was created with the first national plan for open science in 2018, and it brings together different kind of stakeholders, obviously researchers, but also librarians, platform managers, and other academic actors. And what they do is to discuss, to bring consensus regarding some topics, and they also coordinate at the national level different action. They follow the implementation of our open science plans, but they also provide recommendations, guides, and they can also commission studies. In addition, we also have in France more traditional network. They are very based on academic libraries, and these academic libraries are gathered in a national consortium called CUPRA, and this national consortium deals with publisher and negotiate licensing to access electronic resources. And we also have a National Bibliographic Agency, ABES, that provide a catalog for academic libraries, but also has a very important role dealing and managing PIDs. So this is a timeline of the open listing the main action and activity and public policy in favor of open science in France. I'm not going to describe in detail all the palette and elements of this timeline, but what I wanted to highlight with this slide is three main key points. And what I wanted to say is that over the past decade, open science, not just open access, has become a very political priority in France, and it received attention from at the highest level of French government. So it was really important, but because of the policy led by the French Ministry of Higher Education and Research, a lot of French university and research organizations were involved in open science. The second point is that what we can see in France is that the landscape around open science has become more and more structured. At the beginning, there are some advocates, some platforms, but after that, the university, research organization, and as I said, the ministry get involved, and it was really important. And finally, what I believe maybe sets France apart from other countries is the existence and continued development of national infrastructure devoted to open science. And they played a really crucial role in enabling open science practices. And HAL Episciences are one of those national infrastructure. So the French ministry have a strategy regarding research infrastructure. This strategy is really aligned and linked to what is implemented at the European level by the European Commission. And this roadmap lists all the research infrastructure in France. This roadmap is regularly updated, and 2025 is a revision year. So currently I'm preparing a new application for HAL and Episciences, and it's a very important step for us because when you are in this roadmap, it's a kind of quality label and a recognition of your strategic value and importance for research community. 2 point interesting open science and what we are talking today is that it begins with the last roadmap. Open science and data are clearly identified as a cross-cutting issue for all the research infrastructure. That means that research infrastructure have to answer some questionnaire about their open science practice, how they deal with publication and their data. And second, in this roadmap, infrastructure are categorized by discipline. For example, telescopes fall under astronomy, and the oceanographic fleet in France under earth and environmental science, and so on. And one category is specifically dedicated to scientific information infrastructures. So what does it mean clearly? So this scientific information research infrastructures, in fact, provide tools, services, but also expertise to researchers throughout the research life cycle. And it begins with publication, but now it extends beyond publication to include data, software, code, and their reuse. So HAL Plus has been part of these national roadmaps in 2016 under this category of scientific information infrastructures. So HAL Plus offers an integrated framework to archive and disseminate publication, different kind of publication in open access. And it's composed of 3 platforms. The main one is HAL, the French National Open Repository. We've got a second platform, Episciences, which is a publication platform. And the third one is ScienceConf. It's a toolkit for organizing academic events. These 3 platforms are managed by the CCSD I'm leading, and the CCSD can be described as the administrative supports behind HAL Plus and all these 3 platforms. We have drawn up a 5-year roadmap for HAL Plus, outlining our strategic vision and objective. And this roadmap relies on 3 main objectives, and it is broken into annual action plan. And we are halfway throughout the roadmap, so we began to start to make some to dress a kind of to say sorry for that. So we began the main goal of this roadmap is to integrate HAL Plus fully into the open science ecosystem. This means for us developing partnership at the national level, but also at the European level and even at the global level. And we are also very attentive to meeting high standards of open science excellence. As the first result, we are involved in several European projects. And recently, we obtained a certification for the core trust skills, and we also publish our level of compliance with Plan S, but also with principle of open science infrastructures. The second priority is to increase the platform usage, and there are 2 parts in this objective. The first one is to improve our services. It's quite technical, but it's important. We try to add new features to our platform. And the second part of this objective is linked to support and training, and we try to effectively to hire people to help researchers in institution to use our platform. And the third key priority is to ensure HAL Plus long-term sustainability. We have made great progress in the 5 last years with the implementation of a new governance model since 2021. And we also have a new funding model since 2022. And regarding the technical aspect, we also improve our technical infrastructure with data redundancy, and we also add security and to optimize the access to the platform. And we also working on open sourcing the code of our platform. It's already done for Episciences, but it's still an ongoing project for HAL and ScienceConf, for example. So now let's focus more specifically on HAL. So HAL was founded in 2001 by a researcher, a physicist, who was really inspired by the archive model in the USA. And his initial idea was to build a multidisciplinary archive in France. But since then, HAL has really evolved and is now identified as the National Open Repository, is a pillar of the France Open Science Policy. And if you dive a little bit more, so what you will find is in HAL is, without any surprise, mostly scholarly documents, whether published or unpublished. This includes journal articles, conference paper, but also thesis, preprints, images, and more. and HAL covers all the scientific disciplines. And currently, HAL hosts over 1.4 million full text document, and we remark that there is a steady growth every year. In 2024 alone, over 165,000 new documents were added to HAL. If you pay attention now to HAL users, at the CCSD, we identify 4 users group, 4 targeted public for us. The first one is, this is researchers, obviously. They deposit their publication in HAL. And it's important to say that HAL is not restricted to French researchers. In fact, HAL is open to all researchers, regardless of nationality or country of residence. That means that you will find mainly now publication for French researchers, but you can also find papers from Italian researcher or maybe researcher from Algeria, for example. And this openness gives HAL a quite unique position in Europe among other open repository. In fact, when people deposit in HAL, we only check that they are researchers and that are employed by a university and that are working in a research laboratory. So researchers also have access to all the content of HAL, and they also can create their CVs. I will talk a little more about this CV service later in my presentation. Next, we have research institution. For the 20 last years, research institutions are becoming more and more important as users in HAL. At the beginning, the focus was really only on researchers, but institutions now are very important users for us, and we provide them a service called HAL Portal. It's a kind of custom branded website, and this website allows the institution to gather, manage, and showcase their research outputs. So it's really important for them. And within these institutions, there is a third category of users who ensures HAL's daily operations. And these people, mainly librarians, but not only, manage the portals, the collection. They pre-check the deposits before they go online, and they handle the curation, enrichment, and quality control of metadata. So they have a very important role. We work closely with them at the CCSD, and these users are organized in a nationwide networks. And the CCSD plays an active role in supporting, training, and coordinating these networks at the national level. And finally, since all the content, metadata, and data is fully open, it is widely accessed. But because it's widely accessed, we don't control, in fact, the access to our database. We have very limited information about how the content of HAL is actually used or its impact. We mainly rely on quantitative data, and what we can say is that about 60% of consultation come from outside of France. And if we consider 2024, there were more than 200 million consultation and PDF downloads from our database. And this worldwide, access to HAL can be explained by the fact that 2/3 of the article in HAL are written in English, and French is the second language, and after you can find other European and Latin language. As I said previously, I would like to emphasize this point. You've got over 200,000 deposits that come from researchers that are not affiliated to French research organization. So without going deeply in the technical aspect, I would like to say maybe a few words about HAL system, information system architectures. HAL is not a content harvester. In France, we do not have a repository for each institution. HAL is a single and unique database with various web displays. And this website reflects one portion of this database. And what is that means that a document deposited in HAL can automatically appear on multiple HAL portals depending on its metadata. For example, an article can be written by different researchers coming from different institutions, and this article will appear both in HAL, the generic portal, but also in each of the respective institution HAL portals. So this is an example. You've got this article in a HAL, and you can see it in CNRS web portal, in RIA, and also HALSS. And currently we have 152 institutional portal. So it's important to understand, and the benefit of this system is that it allows metadata curation efforts to be shared across the network, and every improvement is visible everywhere, and you need to do only one deposit to be visible everywhere. But however, there is a challenge also. The challenging part is that with this model, we need to have a very high level of regulation and common and shared rules within the user community. That's why it's so important that the CCSD work closely with all institutions, and that we are networking, and we are training people and exchanging with all the institutions. So now I would like to focus on the main project we are working on. The first is to establish link between publication in HAL with dataset that can be and software that can be hosted in other repository than HAL. The second main project we're working on is we would like to make HAL as user-friendly and as simple as possible for researcher. And the third project is we're working on making HAL metadata really usable and available for research management system. The idea behind this project of linking publication with dataset and software is the need for a more coherent view of all scientific outputs that breaks down the technical silos that exist between publication repository, data repository, and software archive. So what we try to do is to provide a comprehensive view on all the outputs of a researcher and of an institution. So last year we worked to improve our relationship system, and now we've implemented a new one, and we'll keep on working on improving it on the coming year. So users can link publication to related dataset and software, and to make easy to navigate between these elements. And also to facilitate the work, we extract mentions of dataset and software from the deposited PDF and provide researcher also with CVs that are automatically generating using data from HAL, but also from external sources such as OpenAlex. And we are at the feasibility study step of the project, but we wonder if it could be interesting also to allow researchers to directly submit datasets in HAL alongside with their publication. And we know that it's a dataset, I don't know, in environmental studies, and we know what are the data repository for this kind of datasets. And in fact, we we provide an automatic transfer to the appropriate data repository. The idea behind this is to only, to simplify the task for the researcher and to provide only one deposit at the same time. So it's really important for us to, what we say, streamline the deposit workflow for researchers. And we want to optimize and simplify the process of depositing in HAL for researcher. Currently, there exist several ways to deposit in HAL. Self-archiving, obviously, the traditional one, is still important in HAL, but we are also implemented a new one. For 18 months now, there exists a semi-automated approach where the CCSD identify publications in other databases and suggest them for deposit in HAL to the researchers in compliance with the associated license. And the researcher can say, okay, yes, I accept that this publication will also be deposited in HAL, and we just download the metadata and the file in HAL, and we'll upload this in the HAL institution portal and in the CV for the researchers. We also pre-file deposit form. We also use metadata extract from the submitted PDF. And yes, it's really important. So we use the UI. We also try to extract, information regarding project, affiliation, funders, acknowledgement, etc. And all this information is aligned when it's possible on all is aligned on authoritative list, and they fill the form for deposit. So it's not necessary now for a researcher to fill all the form manually. So it's to help researcher, we also open a dedicated platform called learning.how.science that provide tutorial video to train researchers. And we also provide regularly webinars, very short webinars. We know that researchers are very occupied, so very short webinars with very few researchers, less than 10, to explain them and to help them to deposit in HAL. So the key challenge for us is to keep researchers engaged in the process in open science, though of course and obviously we have advocates of open science who are fully committed and they are really interested and are very strong ambassadors of HAL. But we have to admit at the same time that maybe most of the researchers still view depositing in a repository as just another administrative task and even burden that add to already maybe a long list of other administrative tasks. So it's yes. So for the CCSD, there are these two parts. We try to provide new services and features. We try to automate what can be automated. We try to use authoritative list. We try to retrieve information for other information system. And at the same time, for the 3 last year, we hired people to provide support and to help and guide researchers. The final project we are working on concern HAL metadata. And as I said, HAL was created nearly 25 years ago, and HAL database is regularly enriched and cleaned since this inception. And in HAL database, in addition to bibliographic metadata, we have a lot of metadata regarding and concerning funders, projects, institutional affiliation. Institutional affiliation is mandatory when you deposit in a HAL, but also regarding research equipments, collaboration, and more. And these metadata are very valuable for research manager within institutions, because they can create reports, they can use this metadata maybe to guide their decision-making process. So for that, the CCSD has developed ready-to-use dashboards to visualize and easily extract this information. But we also provide an open API, which is a very strong tool to extract metadata from HAL, but it's maybe for tech people. So that's why we we open what we call HAL Monitor. It's very easy to use. And this demand is really growing, and there is a very strong demand from the institution. And even if the CCSD is responding to it, I think it's important to remain cautious because HAL is an open repository and it must remain so. So while HAL can feed research information system, it should not replace them, and it should not become a crease, in fact. So it's a very narrow line between serving administrative needs and staying very focused on our mission of openness and providing access to full text document and not only metadata. So moreover, as I mentioned earlier, integrated metadata from multiple sources like ORCID, Crossref, OpenAlex, DataCite, etc. Requires a curation effort to ensure a consistent level of quality. So, which is increasingly complex human resources challenge for the CCSD as an organization, but also for a partner institution, because they need to mobilize librarians to help them in this task. So now I will say a few words about Episciences. So Episciences is a complete solution for editing and publishing scholarly journals. It operates as an overlay platform. I will say a few words about overlay model later on my presentation. And Episciences is designed to host and disseminate open access publication from all discipline, from all country, and we also accept articles from different language, not only French. And the journal that are hosted on Episciences are aligned with FAIR principle. And we welcome new journals in Episciences, but also journals transitioning for traditional publishing models. We can deal with, backfile of these journals. And Episciences is what we call a diamond open access platform. I know that all these colors can be confusing and it are not so easy to understand, but what we say regarding Episciences is at the same time is a kind of mix between gold open access, that is to say that the article are peer reviewed and at the same time and open, obviously, but at the same time green open access because the article are self-archived in open repository. So Episciences provides both technical and editorial support to journal teams. For example, we provide personalized websites. We buy for a journal's DOI. And we provide a complete editorial workflow. We reference the journals in Thematic International Database, for example, and we also can provide advice regarding copyright and contracts between journals and the authors. And we provide the support in French and in English for all the editorial team. It's important to say that all the hosting and operation of journal and Episciences are entirely free for the journals, and the access obviously to the article is completely free also for the readers. The Episciences code is open source, as I have said, and we have a governance that is led by researchers and academic people. And we are publicly funded. So yes, all these elements, reinforce our commitment to sustainable and equitable open science. Episciences has experienced a a strong growth over the five last years. In 2020, Episcience hosted 19 journals, and now it supports 40 journals. So a little, some words about the overlay model. That means that Episcience operates on top of open access repository. Currently, Episcience is connected to HAL and Zenodo, as well to major preprint servers such as Archive, bioRxiv, and medRxiv. It also connects to the Software Heritage Archive and to Dataverse, which is widely used as a software for data repository. So if you focus on the first step of the process, researchers deposit a preprint, for example, in one of these repositories, and then submit it to an Episcience journal. And the article goes through peer review, and when accepted, the final version is published on an Episcience journal. This model presents the advantage of allowing multiple rounds of peer review and exchange between reviewers and the authors. And each journals of Episcience platform can choose between fully open or single blind review process. And what is really also maybe different from traditional publishing system is that from preprint to published article, each version, each amended, corrected version remains open, accessible, and citable. So I consider that Episcience is a cost-effective, is a resilient model because responsibilities are distributed among different stakeholders of the ecosystem. Repository handles storage and preservation of the deposits, and while Episcience manages peer review and dissemination of the accepted version. And maybe if you an article which is published in an Episcience journal can be linked to a variety of scientific outputs that can be stored in different repositories. So the preprint can be in archives. The linked datasets can be found in a Dataverse-based repository. A related software can be archived in Software Heritage. And the peer review reports can be found in DBMass, for example, OpenDBMass, or for example in HAL. So this is this slide aims to show how we rely on very distributed and decentralized publishing system. I'd like now to share three major areas we are focused on. First, we have completely redesigned the web interfaces of Episcience journal. The first goal, very basic one, was to update the quite outdated design of the journal website, but above all, to improve significantly accessibility for readers. And also, we aim to meet academic publishing standards by including in all journal websites necessary elements like editorial board, author guidelines, citation instruction, some sharing option, etc. And one of the key challenge was balancing the identity of each journal with the shared visibility of Episcience as the hosting platform. So we try to balance this to give place to a journal and at the same time to make possible to recognize that the journal was hosted by Episcience. So we work with the UX design agency, and currently we are gradually migrating each journal website to the new templates. Second project we are working on is regarding a new kind of journal. So we welcome a journal that publishing data paper and software papers. So this is really aligned with Episcience strategic directions. And that is to say that even there is a growing number of journals hosted by Episcience, I know, and we know with the manager of the platform, that this overlay publishing model will still remain a niche for some years. And so we like to experiment and maybe to offer other kind of publishing way, and to offer also alternative to the traditional print and article, journal article publishing. Finally, and the third and maybe more strategic project we're working on is a long-term development. The main objective for Episcience is to keep on expanding the platform, to enrich the catalog of journals and growing our user base. And to achieve this, we have identified 3 directions. The first one is we want to raise awareness of the overlay model and the Episcience platforms, particularly among researchers and librarians community. So we have planned to launch an ambassador network similar to HAL's one that is quite successful. And to lead this effort, we hired a dedicated partnership manager that will join the Episcience team next June. So it's a good news for us. Second, we are working on new services because Episcience is relying on open repository for the moment. We provide only PDF file. And we know that for publishing, it's not enough. So the goal now is to make PDF a secondary, a detachable format. And we want that HTML will become the default format for consultation. So it's quite a technical challenge, but we are working. And we also want to increase the number of repository with which Episcience is connected. And third, it's really important, we are seeking to diversify our funding sources to support at the same time Episcience as a platform, but also to help journals financially. And so to that end, we are targeting institutional academic funding. It's very straight with a way to consider open science publishing. So we are very happy because Episcience has been selected by SCOS, which is the Global Sustainable Coalition for Open Science Services, to be part of this 6th funding cycle. And SCOS is a very valuable intermediary for that helps connect open infrastructure as Episcience with potential funders. And thanks to this connection, we have already received support from the Norwegian and Swiss library consortia. And we also benefit from the support of the French consortium Couperin. And more recently, it's really interesting for us, the German consortium Koala has chosen to support a selection of Episcience journals. That is really appreciated. Because this consortium gather institution focusing on IT and informatics and this kind of things. They have selected a journal in this discipline in the Episcience platform. So that's it. I have finished my presentation. So thanks so much for your attention.
Ngā mihi nui, Nathalie, that was really, really interesting. We do have a lot of questions, so I'm going to get straight into those. If I start with the first one that was asked, so we're going back, I think, now to HAL. What types of open publications can be uploaded? Do they need to have been peer reviewed? So, for example, are there author accepted manuscripts or open texts?
So in HAL, we accept published and we accept peer-reviewed and not and preprint also. So you can deposit in HAL preprints journal article. And regarding published journal article, we pay attention to the license, what is authorized by the publishers. So depends on the policy of each publishers, but we've got a law in France. This is called the law for French Republic, and according this law, French researchers are allowed to publish a version of their articles 6 months after the first publication for STM and 12 months for humanities and social sciences. But you can always put in HAL author manuscript, author accepted manuscripts. Yeah, those.
Another question, how does it differ to core, as in CORE core? And are analytics reports or dashboards available?
I think maybe that yes, different elements in my answer. The first one, I think the main difference is the scope, that core is very harvesting, I think, all open repository, and HAL is harvested by core, but also by Open Air Graph in Europe. So you can find the content of HAL in this kind of tools. What we have done with HAL Monitor is really focused on HAL content. You can have the list of the document that were uploaded, the category of the type of the document. You can also find the list of the project funded, etc. So maybe it is more precise because we have direct access to the HAL database. And so it's you can go to HAL, you just have to click, this is my institution, my university. I want all the information from 2022 to 2025, and you select, I'm only interested by journal article, by project funding, and you just have, a very simple list of this item. You can download a CSV or a CSV file, and you can also visual them on the web. So I think HAL is more focus. And maybe the last element of my answer is that we working with core. We are involved in the same European project. And in fact, we use core and HAL. HAL is a kind of use case for core. We're working on identify mention of software within the PDF files. And the object after that is to write to the researcher to say, okay, we have noticed that you quote this software. Is it accessible in a Git? Can you provide a link? Can you add this to your publication? So we are working on this specific focus on software with core to improve, the analytics and the reports.
It's amazing to have that relationship between the two. It's good to know. Another question, does HAL mostly host for countries with national open access policies in place, in particular asserting and embedding author rights retention? And the reason they ask is that they're wondering how HAL is able to be compliant with publisher-owned copyright when hosting published versions.
Yes, we try to be compliant with the Plan S policy, and it was a great job done by the Open Science Committee in France to try to explain to researcher what was the author right retention. It's not so easy, and it's always really complex. When we talk with researcher, we understand that nobody understands what they really are able to deposit in HAL. It's really challenging for us. So we have produced a lot of documentation, short video, but it's always a question. So we try to do our best and we try to implement that, but it's really difficult. And when you deposit in HAL a publication, we ask to the depositor to check the policy of the publisher, and rely for this on it changes name, but I always say Sherpa Romeo.
Yeah.
I can't remember the policy finders, publisher policy finders. I can't remember the new name. So yes, it's integrated in our web interface, so you can you just search the name of the journals, and we request Sherpa Romeo database, and we provide the answer to the deposit, and so the depositor know what is possible to do or not. And after that, all the deposits in HAL are pre-checked. We don't look at the content. This is not a scientific peer review, not at all. We just check metadata, if everything is coherent or not, and we check if it's the good version that can be deposited in HAL. So there's a kind of legal pre-check.
I have to say it's so affirming to hear that some of the challenges are common across both countries, researcher time, understanding of things like rice retention. We have 2 questions that I'm confident if we're quick, we can get through the last 2. One is around promotion. Do you promote new content added to the repository? And if you do, how?
I'm not sure to understand the question. That is to say that if you advertise new content, or that you, yes.
Yeah, like some have widgets or pop-ups on their homepage with latest deposits.
Okay.
I see
that was from me.
Would you
I'll
like to
just
speak to that?
yeah, I'll just clarify. Sometimes newsletters or go around. Some of the publishers might distribute a newsletter or something that it's like an alert service to say this is some new content that's been added to the repository. Whether you do something like that.
We have a newsletter, but we don't use it for advertising new content because of the number of the deposit is so high. But on the HAL portal, you can this is a template, so you can choose different widgets. And one widget is the last deposit, so it's on the first page of our portal. This is maybe a way to advertise and promote new content. And yes, and we with CORE, the Coalition of Open Access Repository, we are involved in an action to promote publication in relation with environmental science and ecological transition. So we're going to try to focus on this kind of publication, but we don't know still yet how it looks like.
Would there be like an RSS feed? I don't know if that's now old technology or whether that's something that's still available, maybe.
Okay, well, we're 1 minute off our close time, so unfortunately, I think we're going to have to cut there. But I think the number of questions, Nathalie, really speak to how much this resonated with our audience today, which is really great. For myself, like I say, hearing common challenges was very affirming, but also I think it will stay with me hearing about particularly the emphasis on value and how you're focused, for example, with HAL on the value for research institutions and what they get out of it. And I think the fact that you've got so much use from outside of France, both in terms of contributions and of use, really speaks to that focus and the focus on efficiency and how intentionally these things have been designed. It's so valuable for us to hear about when we're a little further down the track in Aotearoa and Australia. So we really appreciate hearing about it and appreciate you taking the time. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much. And thank you for getting up early. And we appreciate your time. I gather we are going to be sharing the slides, Janet?
Yeah, and the recording. So I'll get those up as soon as possible and send them around to everybody here, but also to our wider community who weren't able to be here. I just wanted to say, I know we're out of time, very inspiring. I'm just blown away by both of these services. They're really awesome. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thanks so much for your patience, for my English also, I apologize.
No, it was crystal clear. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for attending. If you're in Aotearoa, good evening. And in Australia, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bye.